Before we jump into today's story, we just want to highlight a trigger warning for the episode. We will be mentioning eating disorders, calorie counting, and potentially damaging attitudes towards weight loss for adults, teens, and children. If you want to skip this episode, that is no problemo. We appreciate you and we'll catch you at the next one. It is hard when you have something that is so impactful like Weight Watchers. I wonder if there's something that they could have played around Health Watchers or like Freedom Watchers or, something like that.
This is not a branding podcast. I didn't like Freedom Watchers.
It sounded a bit
anarchist.
right-wing, didn't it? Hey, there are no bad ideas in spitballing, Dale.
Yep. Hello and welcome to the Big Con podcast, where we use the benefit of hindsight and a healthy dose of Schadenfreude to look at where businesses took a misstep and had an impact on either their profit, their brand, or something much more dire. I am one half of the Big Con podcast, Dale, business nerd.
And I'm Emily, Harvard degree candidate.
Strategy isn't just for the big players, so no matter what size business you work in or on, tune in as we learn through the failures of the poor souls that have gone before us. So Emily, which poor souls are we looking at today?
The business we are looking at today has been around since the dawn of time. Okay, just since the 60s. That was sort of when we as a society really started pushing products that helped us to be healthy, read thin. We have always had medicine people sort of in our societies or ways of treating ailments actually since the dawn of time. But as an industry, it actually really hit its stride in the 1980s to 2000s and has been growing in a crazy way ever since.
I'm imagining cavemen sitting around going like, here is a great tonic, ook.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. But then we wanted to be thin. Healthy and thin is sort of like the mantra as we sort of move into later. So yes, our company today was slightly ahead of its time. And so what comes with that is the trials and tribulations of changing attitudes and new research emerging in what is a very dynamic field. I am talking about the insanely problematic household name Weight Watchers.
I know it well.
Do you? So can you tell me just like in a couple of sentences what you know about Weight Watchers?
They've got points. I know that Oprah is involved. You can buy Weight Watchers meals. There's women on my TV telling me how they used to fit in jeans 15 times their size, and men say, look at what fits me now, and they've got themselves with a giant pair of jeans, and they can say, oh look, I can wear this, and they're pulling their waistband out.
Yes. So before I started this, I actually realized that I knew insanely little, except I think my mum or someone like that did it at one time or another. But anyway, the way this company got its start really set the tone for how it went forward in the future. So a woman had just been living her life, and then someone asked her when the baby was due.
Never.
Did not have a baby. So suddenly her weight was this embarrassing problem that she needed to deal with immediately. So she enrolled in a government-assisted program to lose weight. The government was offering these programs over in America. And it had a support element as part of the program where people would be involved in regular meetings to sort of help them on their weight loss journey. But she didn't really like the way the meetings were run, so she decided to spring up her own version just in her living room. And that's how it started. But it goes global so quickly. Like, she started doing cookbooks very soon after she launched and sold 1.5 million copies in 1966. So just a couple of years after she started Weight Watchers. Like, wild.
How global are we talking? Like, I'm assuming.
Like, all over the world.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
For the 60s.
Yeah. And so it seemed to be quite an easy way, an easy method for tracking what you were eating. And because there was a community of others, it sort of helped you stick to it. So
I'm
the way
assuming
it
in the
worked,
60s it wasn't an internet-based community. It was more like local, small communities.
You'd go and meet in person and get weighed and talk about your difficulties. So the way it works, for those who don't know, you were right, there's a point system. And each food has a dedicated number of points, which is based on your height, age, and other factors. And you're given a certain number of daily points that you cannot go over. So this means that nothing is off limits. Have your chocolate cake, but you're better off eating more of the lower pointed foods so you can have enough to eat.
So gamified calorie counting. Yeah.
Exactly. And before things shifted, and things did shift and we'll get to it, but it involved weekly weigh-ins and group meetings, and the cost was around $67 per month. So this is an average collated based on a 2019 study of women who are aiming to lose 5% of their body weight through Weight Watchers.
Okay.
So $67 per month, it's, nothing to balk at. But the way they attract customers is actually quite similar to the MLM business model, which is interesting, although it is not an MLM.
Those playing at home and haven't listened, multi-level marketing is MLM, yes. Which is not a pyramid scheme.
No, not at all. Weight Watchers collects people through community engagement, and the group leaders of the meetings are people who have lost weight through the program. So it is that kind of modeling incentive that you see in an MLM. The other unique thing about Weight Watchers was its well-known household name and brand power. They have devoted customers and have been around for so long and stood the test of time.
Yeah.
Just decades. Because they're simple, they're easy to follow, and they got the job done. And that was it. That was the attitude towards Weight Watchers.
The average ad break usually had a Weight Watchers commercial in it. Based on whenever I used to watch TV, there was always at least one Weight Watchers commercial ad break.
Yeah. And everyone knows what it is. So some of the positives you might get from the Weight Watchers methods are that studies show tracking your foods and using a daily routine is highly linked to long-term weight loss. You have control over what you eat. Weight loss is slow and steady, so you're not dangerously losing a lot of weight in a short amount of time, which some other diet sort of strategies might do. And also support networks are linked to higher levels of success. But all of these positives, or in quotes, positives, sort of all based on this problematic underlying assumption that weight loss as a goal is admirable.
Yeah.
So it shifts the focus from wellness to appearance, both subliminally and explicitly. And it can damage people's emotional relationships to food. But also the point system can encourage eating disorder behaviors such as binging, because people were saying that they were saving up all their points for the evening and then just gorging.
Oofed.
Plus, while support groups are a well-meaning thought, according to former participants, they just sort of end up shaming people for not losing weight. We're not going to go into the depth on the social impact of Weight Watchers because that's not what this podcast is. But if you want a more sort of social and health science information on this, I highly recommend the podcast Maintenance Phase and their Weight Watchers episode, which we'll link to in the show notes, because we are focusing on the business failures, of course, but they're pretty wild moral and health support failures. And while sometimes they go hand in hand and it's important to understand the attitudes, there's definitely a lot more depth to cover than we will today. But one more thing societally to note that is extremely relevant is the changing attitudes to wellness that we have as a society. We have increased our awareness in health and wellness through education, research, and advances in medicine. And this has even gone up more exponentially since the pandemic as people are increasingly aware of their health and mortality. So it's important to note, though, as well, that even in these attitudes, there is a class divide in terms of who the wellness industry is targeting. So we're really looking to that upper middle class attitude to wellness, which also makes sense because that is who Weight Watchers targets.
Yeah.
Because it's not highly accessible as a service for anyone struggling financially due to its pricing.
Can we go back a sec? That $67 you spoke about, was that about, that is purely for the access to the program? That doesn't include food or anything? It's just to be access. It's a membership fee.
What the study described it as, it's to buy everything you need to lose 5% of your body weight as part of what Weight Watchers offers, which, so
that would
is
assume
the
that
service.
so food is involved in that?
No, I thought that was a huge part of their business model, but it actually isn't.
Okay.
The business model is the point system and the reporting and the community.
Okay.
So you choose what you eat. And they do have like Weight Watchers meals that you can purchase and it'll say it's this number of
X amount
points.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, but that's not the main part of the business. But because of these changing attitudes, Weight Watchers, and like they change decade to decade, Weight Watchers has actually been fluctuating up and down for a while now. And in the 1990s, they suddenly came up against a bunch of competition like Jenny Craig and Slim Fast, which were doing similar things. Over the years, they've also been bought and sold a number of times since our founder. So Heinz Ketchup actually owned them for 20 years. Yeah, and then they sold it to someone who owned a sugar factory. So you can sort of see from like that transfer of ownership, like there's an indication that there may have been more focused on running a successful business than on health. But
It's problematic. That is.
Yeah.
Go on.
Yeah. All of this is happening. It gets to 2018.
Yep.
And we see that the health and wellness attitudes have changed. People no longer want to stigmatize weight. Science is sort of saying, actually, we don't fully understand causation and correlation of weight-related health stats.
Mm-hmm.
For example, do larger people have heart attacks because of their weight? Or are there more socioeconomic reasons, like poorer health in general because of financial ability to buy good food? Or even they might be more likely to smoke in poorer areas. So the weight might be correlated due to these factors because they might not be able to afford healthy food. But another factor might be the actual cause of the heart attack. So we actually don't understand that correlation as clearly as we've sort of suggested in the past.
Yeah.
We also have a movement of body positivity and empowerment that means, which is fantastic. And when something is called Weight Watchers, they may be directly going against this movement and could become very unpopular. So this is where I believe they got to when they decided to rebrand. And they decided to rebrand to WW.
Not a horrendous idea. Based on what so far I'm with you. Seems a smart idea if they're looking to move away from weight and maybe into more wellness and overall lifestyle.
Yes, but it's complicated. Their brand power is something that is actually integral to their success because of how trusted they are in the weight loss community. And they don't want to alienate their current customer base. It's quite often ill-advised to rebrand so dramatically, but there are a few reasons that experts say you might do this, such as distancing yourself from a crisis, a change in target audience, or the most common is to stay relevant when attitudes are changing. So here is Weight Watchers' problem.
Yep.
And they decided that the word weight was possibly damaging enough for their future customers that it was time to change. So what they did was WW, but they kept some comms with Weight Watchers, like the website address didn't change. But now they were WW or Wellness That Works when they were sort of talking about the company. The CEO at the time, Mindy Grossman, she made a lot of announcements that they were changing the way they approached wellness, that it would be a more holistic approach. Great. However, they did not fundamentally change who they were. And Grossman even acknowledged that they wouldn't give up their leadership, this is a quote, leadership in healthy weight loss, whatever that means. So weigh-ins are a thing of the past now, and they started to introduce more psychologically supported approaches. Fantastic. But at its core, it's still a point system, which is still about calorie counting and calorie restriction for weight loss. Plus, team members complained because all of a sudden they felt the expectation was for them to provide counselling when they didn't have psychology degrees or any proper upskilling to be able to properly help people through these journeys with the information that we have now.
Yep.
Also, in this time since the rebrand, they introduced what is arguably their most problematic offering. And Dale, it's actually awful.
Ooh.
They developed a weight loss app called Kurbo, which was aimed at children.
Oh, no. What?
In 2022, well after the brand change, there was a complaint filed by the Justice Department on behalf of the Federal Trade Commission to say that it breached Children's Online Privacy Act. So it was like taking children's data without them having proper supervision or guardian approval. That's not even the worst part. There are stories of children as young as 8. They had to say, yes, I'm over 12, so I don't need a guardian, or no, I'm under 12, so I need a guardian to answer. Parents can be forcing their children to have some troubled thoughts about their own bodies. So children as young as 8, it's just distressing. App provided them with a green, red, and yellow light system based on how much of a food you should consume. So basically it's teaching children super young to associate guilt and shame with foods.
To go back to that system, it's
And
kind
this
of like,
is-
I'm assuming it's food pyramids. I thought we disproved the food pyramid, but fruit and vegetables, green, processed foods, red, that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, things like chocolate cake, bad. It's very well documented that this is how eating disorders manifest.
So I look at how I'm raising my daughter at the moment is there is no such thing as a bad food. It's troublesome approach and we haven't perfected it because some bad foods taste a lot better than some of the more green foods, may I say. But
Yeah.
like I see, just in terms of how I'm raising versus how I was raised, the food pyramid was something we definitely considered.
Attitudes have changed, but this came out in 2022.
Now,
Like, this was last
before you
year.
jump into the app, I don't know how much you know, but I'm assuming the app wasn't designed to, it's not like Kurbo fat shaming children. It's something
No.
intended to design healthy habits and educate children.
If they are shifting this wellness sort of healthy, psychological, safe space, then they need to do a lot more research and a lot more understanding about eating disorders and about people's relationship to food in order to, if they're moving into wellness and not just weight loss, then there's so much more that needs to be done.
I'm reading a description on the side here. There's something yucky around parental involvement. Around Kurbo allows parents to monitor their children's progress and receive weekly reports on their food activity and choices. Yeah. Yucky.
It's so problematic. It's so problematic. We can have our feelings around it as much as possible, but actually it's also bad business to not be practicing what you preach. As you can imagine, the results of this brand change, they've not gone well. They've not gone well.
And so if I'm in the boardroom, I'm sitting there as WW and I'm thinking about a cradle to grave situation where we get our customers at their babies and we begin the shaming and we train them up and then they transition perfectly into tracking everything by points and okay. So I can understand the business strategy.
Yeah, they're creating long-time customers. That's their goal anyway. So in the financial year of the announcement, they lost 600,000 subscribers.
Oofed.
And the share price fell 30% in the month after it stated its name change.
Wow.
Before the name change, its share price was $101 US.
Whoa, that's great.
After it dropped, it averaged out to about $40. It did take a hit during the pandemic, and that's what they've sort of put this down to. But after the pandemic, they almost fully recovered in price. But it was the app, really, where they plummeted it again. Can you take a stab at where they might be today?
Ooh, based on stock market trends, 130, 140?
$4.
Sorry, what?
They're $4. So the brand name change, they were at 101. They changed the brand name. They've done the app and all these kind of things.
Thought they were kicking
and said they're about wellness. No, $4.
Okay. Interesting.
The app also gave them a financial hit as they had to pay $1.5 million as a penalty for collecting the data on children. So one of their strategies to try and regain favor in the public eye was through the celebrity of Oprah Winfrey. So she was a board member and she owned about 8% of WW. Oprah as well has openly battled with ideas and attitudes towards weight during her tenure in the public eye. So while probably a good match for the company in terms of partnership, it maybe didn't help them long term as more and more people grow in understanding around health and wellness and reflect on those past attitudes. Another blunder, and this is actually, this is kind of funny. It's one of my favorite.
I'm not picking up on the
one that they just couldn't see it coming. While they were pushing #WW on Twitter, Trump ordered an airstrike that killed the highest profile Iranian military leader.
Oh, no.
And so people were concerned over the possibility of World War III or #WW World War, #WW3. So Weight Watchers was trending as a political topic.
Oh, no.
So it's terrible. But anyway, there was another scandal that went round. It had to lay off a heap of employees. So the actual number has not been disclosed, but it came out that they told them all in a group setting. So they got all these people on Zoom and then went, you're all fired.
No.
If you've got any questions, you can talk to your line manager individually or whatever.
Which is not an uncommon story from the layoffs we've seen over the past, since the pandemic. It's been people jump onto a Zoom call and find out that they no longer have access to their email. It's yuck.
It's, it's also just not a good look, especially for a company that's trying to promote wellness. I feel for it.
And they're effectively mum and pop apple pie. Good old story Weight Watchers, maybe problematic, similar to mum and pop, but also you trust them. And all of a sudden they're doing all these things that aren't overly they're aligned with their value and their brands, or at least what they're pitching.
Right. The fact that they wanted to do a brand change, what's in a name really? Yes, Weight Watchers as a name is problematic, But like, if you're not shifting your attitudes to reflect the brand change, then it's all just smoke and mirrors anyway.
Yep.
You've got to talk more about their wrongdoings and analyse a few things. But should we do that after the break?
Yeah, need some time to think.
Welcome back.
This is multi-layers.
Right? And all over a rebrand. Like, when you really come down to it, what this episode is about is discussing the failure of a rebrand. So have you got any thoughts about, I just padded it with other interesting facts.
So there's a point in which a company or any business or a small business might decide that a rebrand is a thing they need to do. And there is reasons in which you might change your business title, you might change your logo, and some of those might be because it was done in Comic Sans or it looks horrendous and it's time to have a refresh. I feel like that wasn't the reason why Weight Watchers changed to WW. I'm not sure that they were aligned throughout the company around where the rebrand occurred. And so I imagine there was PowerPoint decks with some version of mission and vision statements. I imagine they got that far. I imagine they said, well, this is what we're going to do. I don't think, and based on the element of you speaking about the people working in there feeling not to be able to support people on a psychological level, I don't think they thought it through every aspect of their business. And so when you do a rebrand as dramatic as WW/Weight Watchers, I'm just going to go WW for a while. I think you need to overturn and look at every aspect of your business to make sure that every element is there to support that and swim in that new direction, which is what it is. They have gone in a completely new direction. I would say from a top level outwardly facing, the new direction seemed intelligent. However, the execution of that and the actual outcomes has been problematic at best, concerning at worst. Even the fact that they bought that app, like an active purchase, if the top line of that app was, we're going to make children conscious of and promote better healthy eating, that might align with that top level new mission and vision statement around promoting a healthy atmosphere, which is where things were going. I don't think the bits underneath, the outcome around what the next step was actually thought through in this space. And it kind of makes me lose a bit of faith in Oprah, really. I was a big Oprah fan.
Look, I don't think it's all Oprah. It's definitely a shame. And I think that in their haste to be this new thing and leave the old thing behind, they potentially didn't do the due diligence that they should have done.
More consultants.
In what is quite we had a trigger warning at the start of this episode for a reason. It really is damaging to people's physical health when they develop disordered eating behaviors, and Weight Watchers model develops those in people.
And they had such an opportunity there. So, because I think so much of the problem with Weight Watchers is that you would have churn because people lose weight and then don't need to watch weight anymore. And so to benefit off a subscription-based model.
Interestingly, they didn't have a huge churn because they're selling a lifestyle.
It's just not a positive one.
It's because they're saying...
Or it's a problematic lifestyle.
Yes. It's problematic. And it has made positive impact in some people's lives. But then those people become glued to the app or whatever it is that they count their points. And it becomes, like you said, it's gamified. So they actually don't have as big a churn as you would imagine.
I'm someone who gets quite easily conned by these things, and I gamify fitness and I've gamified calorie counting in my life on previous occasions. So I can understand the draw card. I don't think they kept up with and led and lived the changing perceptions. Could they have done more? Like what else looks like from their product set? What else do you think is beneficial for them to be able to offer to reconsider?
Being this legacy brand, they've been around for generations, and they had the opportunity to be at the forefront of these changing attitudes and actually had the potential to make an impact in what is a very under-resourced area of public health. Instead of going, this has gotten away from us, people don't like the name Weight Watchers anymore, we're just going to change the name. If they had actually done some research into what this means and what this means for them and the role that they could play, I think they could have had a very different app.
They could have actually formed some of the narrative rather than just being victim of it. Because I feel like they're wishy-washy. They've just kind of been swayed by the external. As much as it's such a tidbit around not changing their website, I feel like that's so just like clutching on to the good faith the SEO that they built up over the years, why would they go away from and get rid of that legacy that they have? It's like, well, if you're going to do it properly. They could still become a market leader.
It is hard when you have something that is so impactful like Weight Watchers. I wonder if there's something that they could have played around, like Health Watchers or like Freedom Watchers or, something like that. You still had some element of the brand that was powerful.
This is not a branding podcast. I didn't like Freedom.
It sounded a bit right-wing, didn't it? Hey, there are no bad ideas in spitballing, Dale.
Yep.
But because they didn't understand the crux of why they were changing their name, they didn't quite get it right. Another thing that's interesting, the timing was probably a mistake. And look, I don't think that it is what was the mistake. They did it in October, November, which was like 2 months before their peak season. For us down under, we know because we're going into the summer. Also, people maybe want help going through the holiday period so they don't eat too much through the holiday periods. I'd love to have a little look at when a campaign goes badly due to unforeseen circumstances. Even that tiny little tidbit of the hashtag World War III, when something unforeseen happens, going back to that really well-rounded strategy is the only way out. And so you look at all the different pieces and you look, okay, what's changed? Okay, the hashtag WW's not going to work. So maybe we're going to do hashtag wellness that works instead, because that's what we're pushing through. So when you just pull out the tiny thread of something in your context that has changed, you can easily shift to remedy that because the rest of your strategy is so solid and well-rounded.
They almost put all the effort into, okay, we moved away from Weight Watchers, we're WW now. You can see how it kind of snowballed for them.
Yes, 100%.
What's next for Weight Watchers?
I don't know, man. They need to follow this advice and do a full rehaul with the whole research and development stuff. They're not in the same sphere as where they could have made a real impact. They've sort of missed the boat on that. But
wow, the WW Oprah. You get a plan. You get a plan. You get a plan. That was horrendous, guys. I'm so sorry.
I didn't hate it.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode. We hope that when you do your rebrand in the future, it's for the right reasons and it's not just to change your logo. If you want to learn more for your business, head over to our website, thebigconsultingagency.com, where you can find Emily. You can also find me at Dale Bryce L on all the things. Please sign up to our mailing list on that original website to hear news about workshops and stay up to date with new episodes. Don't forget to follow us and rate us on your podcast app of choice. Thank you everyone for listening. And Emily, thank you. I don't want to say that was fun, but it was interesting. Thanks, listeners.